Tonight, grief and outrage in Minneapolis in the aftermath of another deadly shooting by ICE agents.
I think the world needs to see this, because we are fighting for our democracy in our country.
With the city mourning another victim, demands for ICE to leave the state grow louder as video of the shooting appears to directly contradict what Trump officials are saying.
This is an inflection point, America. I don't know what else to tell you.
Plus, Canada in the grips of a massive winter storm.
I have to go to work or I wouldn't be doing this.
Dangerous whiteout conditions, cancel flights and power outages as snow, ice, and frigid temperatures stretch from the prairies to Atlantic Canada. And more threats and jabs from Donald Trump aimed at Canada.
There's possibility of 100% tariffs if they do a free trade deal.
Ottawa navigates escalating tensions with Washington as MPs return to the House of Commons.
From CBC News, this is The National with Ian Henemansing.
In Minneapolis tonight, there's both heartbreak and defiance. A 37-year-old man is dead, the second person shot and killed by federal officers in the city this month. And for the second time, video seems to contradict what Trump officials are saying. Federal officials say ICE agents shot Alex Pretty, a U.S. citizen and intensive care nurse, in self-defense, calling him a domestic terrorist who pulled out a gun. But the video doesn't back that up. In a moment, we're going to show you that video and a warning. It includes the moment shots were fired. It is disturbing. Katie Simpson is in Minneapolis tonight, where despite the frigid temperatures, people are in the streets expressing grief and outrage.
A community pushed past its breaking point. The quiet sobs of grief cut through the frigid air.
I'm broke. I don't know what to do. So we're here. This guy was a hero, and I don't care what anybody else says. He's a Minnesota hero.
Mourners left tributes on a frozen snowbank, the site where Alex Pretty was shot and killed by federal agents.
And the world needs to respond to this, because we are fighting for our democracy in our country.
Pretty was 37, an ICU nurse at a veterans hospital. He was seen recording ICE agents before the altercation began. Video shows officers shoving an observer. Pretty is seen trying to help when agents start using pepper spray. In the commotion, authorities surround him and force him to the ground. You can see here, an officer appears to pull a firearm from Pretty's body. He was a legal gun owner and had a permit to carry. A few seconds later, shots are fired, at least 10 of them.
You do not get to attack law enforcement officials in this country without any repercussions.
Senior Trump officials continue to make claims that appear to contradict video evidence and witness statements, saying Pretty brandished a gun. They called him a domestic terrorist, accusing him of wanting to massacre ICE agents.
The victims are the Border Patrol agents. I'm not blaming the Border Patrol agents. The suspect put himself in that situation. The victims are the Border Patrol agents there.
The governor of Minnesota repeated his pleas for ICE agents to end their operations.
This is an inflection point, America. If we cannot all agree that the smearing of an American citizen and besmirching everything they stood for and asking us not to believe what we saw, I don't know what else to tell you.
State investigators are being shut out of this case, just like they were the fatal shooting of Renee Good.
Probably about 3 spots of blood.
Okay, indirectly kind of in front of this guy?
They arrived at the scene 24 hours after, looking for any evidence that may have been left behind.
Man, find all the evidence you can, man. Let's get rid of these people out of our state.
Even with all that's happened, protesters we spoke with say they will remain vigilant, prepared to stand up for their community.
If someone was getting attacked or abused, I would have to step in. And if I'm not trying to sound cool, but if I go that way too, then I've led a good life. Standing up for Minnesota.
Donald Trump now says this entire incident is under review. And in a new interview with the Wall Street Journal, he says at some point he'll pull ICE agents out from this community, but he did not offer a timeline.
And Katie, you spent much of your day at that memorial site. What stands out for you so far?
Ian, it didn't matter that it was minus 24 degrees Celsius. People showed up to pay their respects. Old, young, all walks of life. And we saw some people openly weeping. There is an anger in this community. People are heartbroken and they are exhausted. National Guard troops have been called in the state. They're on the ground now. They're wearing yellow vests so they're not accidentally mistaken for ICE agents. There is some hope that with the presence of the National Guard, it might lower tensions at least a little.
Katie Simpson in Minneapolis tonight. Later in the show, we'll break down the key moments of the shooting and speak with a retired FBI agent about why he says the video evidence does not support the use of lethal force. Millions of Canadians are on alert tonight as a colossal winter storm deals out punishing and dangerous conditions. Environment Canada is warning about frigid temperatures and blizzards that make driving a hazard. Check out the sheer volume of official alerts in force tonight. The yellow signals hazardous weather. The less common orange alert means severe conditions. And the system responsible is still on its way to the East Coast, where more of its impact will be felt. Jennifer Yoon starts us off in Toronto, where the snow is still coming down. As much as 60 centimeters is expected by morning.
Canada's biggest city, now just one big mess. Snowfall so heavy and constant, plows struggled to keep up, some even crashing into a hydro pole, a gas line, or a tractor trailer.
Take it easy out there today. I have to go to work or I wouldn't be doing this.
White out conditions on the roads. At least 100 collisions in the Toronto area, another 100 calls to police for cars stuck in ditches and snowbanks.
We've had multiple jackknife tractor trailers, some commercial vehicles involved in crashes.
Is cancelled.
At Toronto's Pearson Airport, hundreds of flights cancelled, stranding travelers even as crews scramble to clear ramps and runways.
I can't go back to Muskoka right now, so I have to find a hotel nearby.
It's not just the snow and ice. As temperatures plummet across the country, officials are warning people to stay home. But that's impossible for some.
We lost power yesterday at about 10:20.
A power outage, cutting off heat for thousands of Montrealers, forcing them to find refuge at a community center.
I've been in the center since about 9 this morning, and I'm just waiting for power to go back to normal.
The weather is also straining the power grid in Newfoundland, where the island's largest hydro station is slowly restarting after icy conditions shut it down.
We are not out of the woods. We're going to take it slowly and steadily, but we're hopeful if things hold as they are, we'll be in a better position and be able to make a better determination on how tomorrow will look.
The Prairies are being hit by brutal cold. In Winnipeg, where it felt like minus 41 with the wind chill, those without a home had a hard time finding shelter.
We need more warm spaces, man.
Some settling for a bus shelter.
It keeps the wind away.
Got a bag. It's got like all sorts of...
Frontline workers out on the streets, passing out warm clothes to those looking to escape the cold.
Oh, it's cold enough for us, and we're out for, just a couple hours. Can you imagine being what it's like being out here full-time 24 hours.
Winnipeg's mayor has said that he's willing to open up more city spaces for those without a home. The extreme cold there is expected to ease up a bit. Here in Toronto, though, the snow is forecast to continue through the early morning with as much as 60 centimeters left behind by the storm. Cleanup is expected to take days, and most Toronto schools are closed Monday.
And Jennifer, that weather system that's causing all of this is still on the move.
Yeah, it's headed east and people are bracing for it. Both Montreal and Ottawa are under snowfall warnings, and further afield so are Halifax and Fredericton.
Jennifer Yoon in Toronto tonight. Thanks. When the system first took hold in the U.S. Southwest on Friday, more than half of all Americans were in its path. Forecasters warned this would be the storm to define the entire winter. It spread from New Mexico to New England, sending onslaughts of ice and snow. And here's how it looks tonight. The wintry blast knocked out power to more than 1 million people in the U.S. and forced the cancellation of thousands of flights. As Sam Sampson shows us, it could take days to recover from its chilling effects.
It started in the south, where winter storms are not only uncommon, but in this case, historic.
We got more in a 24-hour period than we've ever had in the last, I think, like 40 years.
Heavy ice and snow toppled power lines, leaving more than 1 million Americans in the dark.
Waking up this morning, you could just hear the branches snapping off of trees in some cases right outside our window.
Outages could last days across the states as crews struggle with storm damage.
Power people can't really get to some areas because roads are blocked with trees. So that's our number one job right now is plow till we get to the trees, and then we got to use chainsaws and cut them up and get them out of the way.
The weather turned deadly in some regions where, despite public warming centers, at least 3 people died to hypothermia or other storm-related causes. Officials in all affected states warned locals to stay off the roads.
This is the only airplane landing at Will Rogers this morning.
And forget about flying. Several airports, including LaGuardia in New York, shut down because of the storm. More than 11,000 flights were canceled in the U.S. on Sunday alone, with thousands more delayed. As the storm moved northeast, some embraced the weather.
I love how people come together when it's snowing. It's just fun.
But others just don't want to deal.
No matter how you push the snow, it just keeps coming. The snow is a devil.
The mayor of America's largest city closed all schools for Monday and stressed crews are prepared to keep things running.
We are frankly seeing too many New Yorkers still out on the roads. That's actually impeding the ability for sanitation to meet this moment. So the more people stay home, the more work our city workers can actually get done.
Many states aren't even through the worst. Cold temperatures are expected to freeze a lot of that snow and sleet right into place, solidifying this storm as one of the most challenging for Americans in recent years. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Edmonton.
And some breaking news out of Maine tonight. A private jet with 8 people on board has crashed during takeoff at Bangor Airport. Few details and images have emerged, but we do know it happened during that major snowstorm with freezing temperatures and low visibility. The incident prompting a large emergency response at the airport, which is now closed as crews investigate. The House of Commons is set to return tomorrow, and Donald Trump's latest threats are already dominating the conversation. The U.S. president warns Canada could face a 100% tariff if this country strikes a trade deal with China. JP Tasker now on how Ottawa is responding and what it means for the session ahead.
MPs are back on Parliament Hill, and looming over the legislative agenda is U.S. President Donald Trump's latest trade threat, this time threatening a huge tariff on Canadian goods if Ottawa signs a trade deal with China.
We can't let Canada become an opening that the Chinese pour their cheap goods into the U.S. There's possibility of 100% tariffs if they do a free trade deal.
Something Carney says is not on the table.
We have no intention of doing that with China or any other non-market economy. What we've done with China is to rectify some issues that developed in the last couple of years.
In exchange for tariff relief on Canadian farm products like canola, Carney agreed to lift levies on a set number of Chinese EVs. Earlier this month, Trump seemed unfazed.
It's a good thing for him to sign a trade deal. If you can get a deal with China, you should do that.
But on Sunday, there was an about-face as he unleashed on social media, saying Canada is systematically destroying itself. The China deal is a disaster for them, will go down as one of the worst deals of any kind in history. Just last spring, the two leaders appeared to have developed a rapport.
I think Canada chose a very talented person, a very good person.
But after Carney delivered that well-received speech in Davos, Trump poked at the Prime Minister, calling him Governor Carney, like he did with Justin Trudeau.
We have to keep the focus on protecting Canadians, protecting our communities, protecting our borders, protecting our way of life.
The government says it's preparing a flurry of new legislation to do just that.
We will have a very aggressive series of introductions of bills over the course of this session.
And in a shift from the last sitting, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre signaled cooperation in a letter to Carney. I am writing to offer help to turn rhetoric into reality, as the party claims the government has been all talk, no action.
It's all well and good to say those kinds of things in front of a crowd like at Davos. What really matters is Canadians not being able to afford groceries,
As part of that more conciliatory approach, the Conservatives are offering to push through bills to bolster trade ties with the UK and Indonesia. There's also talk of a bipartisan delegation to Washington to help smooth things over ahead of the CUSMA renegotiation.
And Carney commented briefly again tonight on Trump's tariff threats.
Yeah, that's right. The Prime Minister only said he will proceed calmly and comprehensively. Meanwhile, Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand tells us Carney is not letting up on his push to diversify trade. He has trips planned to India and Australia in the coming weeks. Ian?
JP Tasker in Ottawa. Thank you. Let's bring in our chief political correspondent, Rosemary Barton. And Rosie, how much might these ongoing threats by Trump overshadow the work on Parliament Hill?
You know, Ian, this is the real challenge for the Prime Minister right now. He has to govern almost on two tracks. On the one hand, because this is a minority government, he's got to find ways to get support with his legislative agenda, which, as well as those measures that JP mentioned, there's the budget implementation bill, there's crime legislation, there's something on affordability that the government's been very vague about. So all these things matter to Canadians. But the Prime Minister also has to respond to this new world order he spoke about last week. He has to find ways to engage with the president so those CUSMA negotiations don't fall apart before they even get started. And, of course, continue to develop new trading partners, which means he won't be in the House all the time either. Critically, he also, Ian, needs to start showing results of his government's policies and choices. Otherwise, he's going to find it pretty hard to get any support from the opposition parties for anything at all.
We heard from JP the Conservatives are willing to collaborate on some issues, but they have challenges of their own.
Yeah, they sure do. At the end of this week, the Conservatives are holding a convention. Pierre Poilievre will face a mandatory leadership review that occurs in the party when a leader doesn't win an election. Conservatives believe Mr. Poilievre will succeed that review, but the moment remains pretty challenging for him too. Holding the government to account, job number one for sure, but he also can't be seen to be criticizing the government or undermining them when faced with these kinds of comments from Donald Trump. So how the Conservative leader speaks to his supporters this week and how he balances those two tasks will also be really important in the days ahead.
Rosemary Barton, thank you.
Thanks.
Officials in Queensland, Australia have ordered a pack of dingoes to be euthanized. The decision follows the death of a 19-year-old Canadian on a beach. A coroner's report suggests Piper James drowned, but her body had dingo bite marks both before and after her death. Authorities say the wild dogs pose an unacceptable public safety risk and they'll be killed humanely. Some families of patients undergoing medically assisted deaths say their loved ones are suffering unnecessarily.
That he should be treated really like a piece of garbage.
Why they blame faith-based hospitals. Accessible seating at games and concerts may be getting taken advantage of.
Why can they not introduce some sort of a system?
The Go Public team brings us the calls for accountability. Plus, no rope, no harness, and seemingly no fear.
It's the tallest building ever free soloed.
The climb making jaws drop. In our moment, we're back in 2.
This is crazy.
That's Canadian actor Hudson Williams from the hit show Heated Rivalry, carrying the Olympic torch en route to the opening ceremonies in Milan next week. He was joined by his co-star Connor Story for their turn in the relay. Heated Rivalry is a love story about 2 pro hockey players. The Canadian-made show has already been renewed for a second season. Adrian will be at the opening ceremony in Milan on February the 6th, along with CBC Olympics reporter Devin Haru. Live coverage starts at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Accessible seating at concerts and sporting events is supposed to make events inclusive. But a BC man who sometimes uses a wheelchair says it often doesn't work out that way. Erica Johnson of our Go Public team went to have a look at who's actually sitting in those seats.
How often is it sold out?
More and more often.
For Bob Koss, trying to buy accessible seating tickets for a hockey game at Vancouver's Rogers Arena is often frustrating. His son Michael suffered a severe brain injury after a car accident 20 years ago. He says an occasional hockey game or concert would bring joy.
I like to enjoy the small, simple things like a hockey game.
Problem is, they say, Ticketmaster uses an honor system online, so anyone willing to fib can buy tickets to accessible seating. Designed for people to maneuver mobility devices, there's plenty of legroom and chairs that friends and attendants can pull up. But Bob says sometimes people sit there who shouldn't, like two men he overheard at a hockey game he did manage to get tickets to.
They were bragging about being able to buy these tickets even though they had no disability. I was so frustrated to hear those comments.
He acknowledges some people may have invisible disabilities or be accompanying someone. That may have been the case when we attended a concert and saw only 2 wheelchairs out of 30 seats, most people walking in and out, some dancing.
And we have to show this.
Bob points out you need a disability pass for parking. He says similarly, Rogers Arena should require people to prove they need those seats.
Why can they not introduce some sort of a system?
In the UK, thousands of venues and events do use a verification system. But the owners of Rogers Arena said the venue respects fans' privacy and some disabilities may be invisible.
It sounds like they're trying to use disability inclusion language against people with disabilities in order to defend their complete inaction.
Legally, he says, venues that want to ensure accessibility can ask fans to provide proof, but can't ask for details. Ticketmaster also says it wants to preserve fans' privacy. Ticketmaster abides by that verification system in the UK, but told Go Public in Canada it would be too difficult to implement. Erica Johnson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Our Go Public stories come from you. If you have a tip for the team to investigate, send an email to gopublic@cbc.ca. Returning to our top story tonight, the deadly shooting of a man in Minneapolis by U.S. federal agents.
Shows me one clear thing. There's a lack of discipline, a lack of training, and lack of preparation by these agents.
What a policing use of force expert says videos of the deadly encounter reveal. And who exactly is ICE trying to recruit?
When the most powerful government maybe in the world is mainstreaming white supremacy, we should all be very, very concerned.
A CBC News investigation looks into the agency's hiring tactics. The National breaks down the story shaping our world. Next. Some families are speaking out about faith-based hospitals that refuse to allow medical assistance in dying. Patients have to be transferred to other hospitals to receive MAID. And as Caroline Bargood explains, the families say it's caused their loved ones unnecessary suffering in their final days.
So this is her with her family.
On the last day of Risha Golby's life, she was forced out of her room at St. Paul's Hospital in Vancouver. That had become her home since she'd learned she had pancreatic cancer 6 weeks earlier. The 47-year-old mother was taken by ambulance to an outpatient facility and placed on a lazy boy recliner where her family said their final goodbyes. Moments later, she received medical assistance in dying and was gone.
And I remember just feeling devastated at the loss of my sister, but more than that, feeling confused and shocked that her last hours were allowed to go ahead like that.
St. Paul's is a Catholic hospital and does not allow MAID to be performed on its premises. Providence Health, which runs the facility, says it has a long-standing moral tradition of compassionate care that neither prolongs dying nor hastens it. The number of hospital beds controlled by faith-based facilities continues to grow across the country. Dying with Dignity Canada says there are more than 100 hospitals with about 13,000 beds. Alberta is currently in the process of acquiring 700 more Catholic beds in Edmonton.
A lot of cities, the faith-based hospital is the only game in town.
The organization is involved in a lawsuit in BC to change government policy so people can receive MAID at whatever hospital they may be in. Helen McCaffrey hopes they win.
It's cruel.
Her husband Jim was forced out of the Elizabeth Briere Hospital in Ottawa he had been in for 4 months in order to receive MAID. The ambulance was 2 hours late, and when they finally took the 87-year-old man to another facility, he was placed in an office to die. The ordeal was so traumatic that his wife says she needed therapy for 2 years to deal with the guilt.
And I'm sorry that it was so sad for him, that he should be treated really like a piece of garbage.
Breer Health says it's sorry to hear about what the McCaffreys went through. A spokesperson said it's not reflective of the experience we would want for anyone we care for. Families say they understand if individual doctors or nurses don't want to perform MAID, but they say publicly funded hospitals should not have more rights than patients. Caroline Bargu, CBC News, Vancouver.
Now it's time to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world. As ICE looks to rapidly expand its workforce, controversial ads are appearing online.
It sends a very clear message about who they're trying to attract.
We'll dig into the agency's recruitment tactics and why some find its messaging alarming. But first, unrest on the streets in Minneapolis after another deadly shooting involving immigration agents.
I've seen the videos from several angles, and it's sickening.
Breaking down what the video evidence appears to show and how it sharply differs from the federal officials' version of what happened. Ashley Fraser takes us through the video evidence, the critical seconds before, during, and after the gunshots.
On Saturday morning in Minneapolis, immigration officers fatally shot a U.S. citizen, 37-year-old intensive care nurse Alex Pretty. Now, many videos like this one have been circulating on social media, and after CBC News verified those videos, they don't appear to match the claims made by Homeland Security that Pretty approached the officers with a firearm. Leading up to the shooting, this video was taken before multiple officers pinned down Pretty. Footage shows Pretty standing facing one officer. We then see another officer get out of an unmarked car. The camera drives by Pretty and we see an officer push him, where we get a clear shot of Pretty holding a cell phone in his right hand. Clearly not a gun. In these next few videos, more people approach federal immigration officers around the same unmarked car, blowing whistles. We then see Pretty's hand here, holding a cell phone, filming the interaction. Fast forward a few seconds, Pretty is seen here filming the officer and waving a car through. In these two angles, we see what happens next. Officers approach and push the person wearing a brown coat. Then they push a person with the orange backpack. Then they spray Pretty with a chemical agent. He holds his left hand up and continues to hold his cell phone with his right hand. This is contrary to Homeland Security's claims that an individual approached U.S. patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. Now we add two more angles. We see Pretty help the person with an orange backpack. Then one of the officers pulls Pretty back onto his knee, then onto the ground. Another officer striking Pretty's head. When we zoom in, we see that's a metal can. And while this is happening, the officer in this gray jacket and blue jeans pulls up Pretty's shirt. You see him grab onto his belt. The officer then turns around and backs away with a firearm in his right hand. We slow down the video and we see that a weapon, which appears to be a gun, is pulled from Pretty's belt, a second before gunfire. Then 10 shots are heard. Based on the gunshot sounds, the officer fires the first shot. Then from this angle, it appears another officer behind him also shoots. One video also shows another officer clap as shots ring out. Pretty lies there, motionless as all the officers step back. No one approached Pretty for 24 seconds. Later videos show officers approaching Pretty's body searching for something. When you hear an officer say, "Where is the gun?" In a response to CNN from the DHS about the gun being removed before the shooting, DHS repeated their statement, saying the officers attempted to disarm the suspect, but the armed suspect violently resisted.
Daniel Bruner is a retired FBI agent with experience in crisis and policing situations. I know you've looked closely at the videos taken by bystanders, and so from the perspective of police use of deadly force, what do the videos tell you?
Shows me one clear thing. There's a lack of discipline, a lack of training, and lack of preparation by these agents in Customs Border Patrol. We are extensively trained in federal law enforcement, from the FBI to DEA, ATF, and obviously CBP and ICE. We receive extensive training, and we work together as a unit, as a group of FBI agents. And we are told, and we're put through scenarios, different situations, in what to do and what not to do. And there's a lot of what not to do in this situation. From the engaging of the individual, of Mr. Pretty, and pushing him back is completely fine. That's completely acceptable. Pushing the perimeter back. But at which point, the agent who initially fires the pepper spray, which also is also completely fine and good. He continues to engage Mr. Pretty for whatever reason. He continues to engage and pull his neck off and pull his jacket and put him down on the ground, at which point Mr. Pretty's gun is exposed. An agent with a gray jacket comes in, removes the weapon from the small of his back. At no time does it appear Mr. Pretty attempts to get the weapon, and no time does it appear that he is struggling to get somebody else's weapon. But at some point, the officer, the agent in the green shirt, decides to pull his gun. And that's another thing that we don't do in federal law enforcement. If you're engaging with hands-on, attempting to handcuff somebody, you do not pull your gun out because of what we call sympathetic discharge. When you're squeezing your hand, maybe around the handcuff or maybe around the individual, your other hand may conduct a sympathetic squeeze as well. And if you're holding a firearm, you fire off a round. So you never pull your gun while you are actively engaging somebody on the ground. And then we believe, you could see from the video, that's the first shot, and then continues, and then chaos ensues with the next 9 shots.
Do you see anything in these videos that would justify lethal use of force?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Based on the videos that I'm seeing, and the administration has already clearly misled us, in numerous press conferences, starting from minutes after the incident, where they said that Mr. Pretty had brandished his weapon when he was approaching the agents, and that clearly was a lie. He was holding a cell phone. To today, in the Sunday morning talk shows here in the United States, they're talking about different things, that he's a domestic terrorist, that he was there to conduct mass executions and mass murder. They don't know that. They don't know any of these. To make these statements is clearly trying to steer the needle in one direction. An investigation has to be conducted, but based on what I'm seeing, based on the videos that I'm seeing, based on everything that is being presented, all the civilian cell phones, everything, no, there is no justification. There needs to be, to fire a weapon, there needs to be a reason, a deadly force reason where the agent has to fire. And looking at, they see the individual has poses threat of harm or bodily injury to oneself or others present, they can fire. Not only the person who fired the first shot, but every other agent who fired a shot too has to be able to say, I saw a threat. You cannot fire because an agent next to you started firing. You cannot do that. That's against regulations. That's against the rules. And then you'll be breaking all the training. That's why I think this all comes down to lack of training, lack of discipline, and complete unpreparedness.
Daniel Bruner, appreciate having your perspective as a former FBI officer. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Our next guest, Jason DeRusha, is a journalist and radio host in Minneapolis. And Jason, you were at the memorial today. What was it like there?
Somber, sad, moving, all of those things, Ian. It was very different from, I think, what the perception is in most of the video that people are seeing all around the world and in Canada. It is not a moment of massive protest. It indeed was candles and personal messages and photos. And it reminded me of what it was like when I went to the memorial for George Floyd 5+ years ago. And it felt a little like a turning point in this.
And so when the news came out yesterday, your phone went off, when you started seeing the videos, when friends and others started seeing the news yesterday and the reaction of federal officials, how did that hit?
Here we go again. It was horrifying in the early moments after to get a version of this story from our government that so clearly contradicted the visual that we were all getting in the videos. And we understand in the fog of these things, sometimes the story is different, but to have the federal government of the United States painting Alex, the victim in this case, as some sort of a madman who had showed up intent on, murdering law enforcement is just way beyond the pale. And here in Minnesota, we understand that law enforcement has a job to do. Many people are very supportive of tough immigration enforcement, but don't lie to us. Be straight, tell us the truth, investigate what happened. We all around the world, and certainly here in Minnesota, deserve that.
You talk to people on your radio program, you know the politics of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and the state of Minnesota. Where do you think things are going to go from here?
Today, a number of supporters of the president here in Minnesota have started calling for a pause, maybe a 30 to 60-day break where the most aggressive surge action of the immigration authorities would be paused, and then we could talk this out. What is the right path? What is the way to enforce immigration laws, but still respect constitutional rights and make sure we're making people safer? I think to look at the fact that 2 people are now dead in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, and you say, for what? For what? What was the emergency that needed this sort of massive response? So we're starting to see a little bit of a turn, which does give me some hope that we can go back to talking about how cold it is in Minnesota and the wonderful kind of winter ice hockey events that we do, and not only be talking about death and sadness.
Jason DeRusha, always nice chatting with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Coming up, ICE recruitment ads, which appear to have a dangerous subtext.
When the most powerful government maybe in the world is mainstreaming white supremacy, we should all be very, very concerned.
So who is ICE trying to recruit? That's next. In the midst of a huge ICE recruitment drive, online ads appear to be littered with white nationalist language.
It's disturbing to see that coming from a government agency.
Who ICE seems to be trying to recruit and why the tactic is so dangerous. Jonathan Montpetit breaks down the online messaging to attract new hires and why some are worried about who is answering the call.
U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, the agency that's been at the heart of Donald Trump's deportation plan, well, they've been on a hiring spree. Like, check out this TV ad they've been running.
Join the mission to protect America with bonuses up to $50,000 and generous benefits. Apply now.
But online, the recruitment campaign uses different language that's familiar to far-right extremists, raising the question, who exactly is ICE trying to recruit? Last summer, the agency was given $8 billion to turbocharge recruitment. The hiring campaign included social media outreach, which caught the attention of experts who study the far right.
I would describe it as oddly very familiar as someone who has been looking at the white nationalist and neo-Nazi movement for nearly a decade now. And it's disturbing to see that coming from a government agency.
In August, ICE posted this image on Instagram and X. Note the tagline, "Which way, American man?" It's a meme often used by right-wing influencers and which refers to this book, a 700-page anti-Semitic rant popular with neo-Nazis. Another post, this one from October, has the tagline, "America for Americans," a xenophobic slogan used repeatedly by the Ku Klux Klan. Experts don't think these references are a coincidence, because it keeps happening. Hannah Gase has spent years researching right-wing extremism online. She walked us through the coded language she's been seeing in the ICE recruitment posts, like this one that uses imagery from the video game Halo.
So anti-immigrant groups have described immigrants coming into this country, particularly non-white immigrants, routinely as a flood.
Or this one, posted just after the killing of Renee Good in Minneapolis.
What are we looking at?
So this phrase, "we'll have our home again," right here. That is a lyric from a song released in 2020 by a white nationalist group called the Pine Tree Riots, affiliated with a white nationalist organization in the United States called the Manor Band. Some organizations like the Proud Boys kind of took up the song as their own. They started singing it at rallies.
And the Proud Boys, a far-right group that's listed as a terrorist entity in Canada, have taken notice. On the messaging app Telegram, one chapter reposted that ad next to a picture of a literal dog whistle, adding the line, "Message received." It's one of several posts from affiliated accounts encouraging members to apply. ICE says it received more than 220,000 applications in its recruitment drive last year. And some are wondering how many of those applicants were responding to the controversial social media posts.
It's unprecedented for a government account that would normally focus on, pretty bland messaging and policy descriptions to be regurgitating white supremacist propaganda.
Heidi Barrick is the co-founder of the Global Project Against Hate and Extremism.
The most dangerous part about it is that this probably is attracting white supremacists and other racial extremists to perhaps join the ranks of ICE. And that is a very toxic, very dangerous situation if it's happening.
ICE has been rushing its new recruits into service, reportedly cutting training time in half. But Barrick says the danger of recruiting with extremist language goes beyond who might get hired.
It's the normalization that I find the most frightening. I thought we had all, not just in the United States, but generally come to the position that white supremacy is a dangerous ideology, that neo-Nazism or the Nazi regime are dangerous and shouldn't be part of mainstream society, polite society, period. But apparently not. The Trump administration doesn't seem to think that. So when the most powerful government maybe in the world is mainstreaming white supremacy, we should all be very, very concerned.
Social media outreach is only one part of the ICE recruitment strategy. The agency is spending millions, according to the Washington Post, on geotagging technology to target ads at specific demographic groups, like people who attend UFC fights or gun shows. ICE also rolled out TV ads aimed at police officers in sanctuary cities, where illegal immigrants can still receive public services.
In sanctuary cities, you're ordered to stand down while dangerous illegals walk free. Join ICE and help us catch the worst of the worst.
David, who do you think ICE is trying to attract with its recruitment strategy? David LePan is a former spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security, which is responsible for ICE.
It sends a very clear message about who they're trying to attract. And I said, it's people that want to get involved in getting rid of people that have been determined to, or been called enemies, foreigners that are somehow ruining our country.
The Department of Homeland Security did not respond to our request for comment about the extremist content of its social media posts. When questioned by other media, the department has denied making references to white supremacist material. Indeed, its posts have been recirculated by other branches of the Trump administration. The White House says it's just posting, quote, banger memes. LePan, though, is not laughing.
I think it's important, for people to recognize that what's happening now is unusual, is unprecedented. It's not a matter of political party, right? Again, I worked in administrations of both types, under Congresses of various types of, whichever party was had the majority. This is unprecedented. It's not normal. It's not what we have seen in the past.
ICE is slated to get $30 billion by the end of the decade to fund its deportation campaign.
According to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, more than 12,000 new officers and agents were hired in the past 4 months due to ICE's recruitment campaign. Up next, a free solo climber scales Taiwan's tallest building.
You could tell by the big smiles and his demeanor as he was climbing up.
His ascent without ropes or harness is next in our moment. You're looking at American free solo climber Alex Honnold. He's on the edge of a 508-meter tall skyscraper in Taipei, Taiwan. It's a huge challenge he's been wanting to do for more than a decade. He completed the climb in about an hour and a half with the world watching, no safety gear. Tonight, this historic achievement makes our moment.
He made history yet again. He's in the habit of doing that. He climbed the Taipei 101. It's the tallest building ever free soloed.
Free solo climbing is essentially climbing with no ropes, no harness, no safety gear, and it is just using your own ability as a climber to climb up the rock. When you are the free soloer and you're in the moment, you're not actually that worried, and you're focused and you're on a mission and you're doing your thing. It's a lot more difficult for the people watching.
You could tell by the big smiles and his demeanor as he was climbing up. From the day he was born, that's all he ever wanted to do. I've had decades to get used to what Alex does. Every time he'd leave the house, I knew I might never see him again. I had to make my peace with that because that's what he does. That's all he loves to do as his passion.
You probably remember the film Free Solo, and that was him climbing El Capitan. Incredible film that won the Academy Award. What I didn't know until tonight is that after he did that Free Solo climb, he did it again with his mom. It's an incredible family. For all of us here at The National, thank you for being with us. I'm Ian Hannamansing in Vancouver. I hope you can join me weeknights at 7 Eastern on CBC News Network. Good night.